god, I'm a fucking train wreck. But it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Okay, hi! I'm Cherry and you've stumbled upon my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about my 2021 bookish goals and reading resolutions. And I'm doing with them so far. I know it's like March, but granted, it is not July, and knowing myself, I still would have done this video in the middle of the year, so there's that. But since we're still in the first trimester of the year, I thought I would share with you guys the goals that I've written in my reading bullet journal. So yes, that's the thing right here. Let's start with my goals that I want to achieve for the entirety of 2021. So my first goal is to read 30 books. Every year since I started taking the Goodreads reading challenge seriously, I've been increasing the number of books that I want to read in a year. I think I started out with only 17 books, then up into 20, and then 25. But this year I decided to challenge myself by reading 30 books. To most people in the book community, that may not be a lot. Some read hundreds and hundreds of books a year, but I am a very slow reader and I get distracted very easily. Being a bookworm and a slow reader at the same time is the absolute worst because I want to read so many books and I can't keep up with new releases all of the time. But the slow and steady increase in the number of books I plan to read in a year has been really helpful and even exciting because, well, progress. So far, I've already read like 11 books, so maybe I will reach the goal. We'll see. Number 2 is finish the books I started last year within the first half of 2021. I've been doing pretty well with this so far. From initially 7 unfinished books, I've already got 5 down and just have 2 more to go. The final 2 aren't DNFs, but I'm really just not in the mood for them. But I'll probably have the last 2 done before June ends. Hopefully, maybe. Number 3 is buy less physical copies. When tempted, ask yourself, where am I going to put them? Okay, this one, I have already failed miserably. I thought having a Kindle will minimize the physical book buying because I really have no more shelf space, like none at all. But it honestly looks like I've bought more physical books than I have in the last few years. I blame the pandemic. I swear to God, getting packages, especially bookish ones, makes me feel alive. I really need to leave the house. I am losing my fucking mind. Hopefully my self-control doesn't waver in the next few months. Would anyone be interested in a book haul though? I might actually do one. I might when I get enough books. But with the way things are going, which brings us to number 4, unhaul books by the end of the year. The goal was originally supposed to be to unhaul books by mid-year, but I decided to push it back to until the end of 2021 so that I'd be forced to unhaul more books than originally planned. New year, new me, new books and all that. God, I really need to stop buying so much shit. Now, for my monthly goals. These goals are pretty much just read more of blank goals. I really want to diversify my reading as much as possible this year because I tend to read books of a singular genre or authors from similar backgrounds. So I decided to read at least 1 or 2 books from each of these categories. The first item is the one I find the most daunting and the one I find almost impossible to do every single month, and that's to read more big books. If a book is long or short can be very subjective depending on the reader, but to me a big book comprises of at least 450 pages. I know some readers who consider like 500 plus pages to be a big book, but I am slow and 400 pages already intimidates me most of the time. But so far I've read 1 big book for January and February. So, yay! Number 2, read more graphic novels and manga. I don't usually add these to my Goodreads challenge, but I really want to get back into reading more graphic novels and manga. There are just so many that have captured my interest lately, but I've always preferred novels to it. I used to be obsessed with manga though, like, don't get me wrong. I have some manga listed down in my reading journal that I want to check out, and it's turning out to be a pretty long list. Would anyone be interested in a graphic novels and manga TBR, maybe, or something? Number 3 is read more BIPOC authors. I used to not be very mindful of the authors behind the books I read. Like, if it interests me, I read it without looking more into it. But as I continue to grow as a reader, I realize I mostly read either white or Asian authors, both of which were and still are the most accessible ones to me. But now that I have more access to authors of different backgrounds and races and ethnicities, mostly thanks to the online book community and the arrival of my Kindle, I think I have become more inclusive and actually more mindful about which authors I read from. So yeah, diversifying my reads this year and for the next years actually is my plan. So far I've been doing pretty well at this, I think. Then the next ones are just genres I want to read more of. First and foremost, I want to read more horror and thrillers. Horror is my all-time favorite genre, and I don't read enough of it because we don't have access to a lot of good ones. Most of the horror and thriller books available in our local bookstores consist of like Stephen King and Gillian Flynn. We don't get a lot of variety here. Having found the horror site of BookTube like a year or so ago, I've added so many books to my TBR. So you can bet your ass I am gonna be binging on a ton of creepy reads this year. I also want to read more queer lit or LGBTQIA+ books. I already read a lot of sapphic books, and sometimes I read nothing but. However, like I said, I really need to diversify my reading, and there are plenty of books about other members of the queer community that I really want to read. The next is read more mental health books. This one goes for both fiction and non-fiction books. I've already got a few books on my shelves that tackle various mental health issues. I just really need to pick them up for real. The next one is read more poetry collections. Last year, when I hit a really bad and really long reading slump, I read nothing but poetry collections. Personally, I love poetry, so I still enjoyed my time reading those, and they made up a large portion of the books I read last year. This year, I hope to read at least 1 or 2 poetry collections a month. If I hit another reading slump, these are going to be my go-to for sure. Finally, the only resolution I have not fulfilled so far, and that's to read more non-fiction. Last year, I read a bunch, mostly for non-fiction November, but I don't want to reserve them for a single month only. That will definitely wear me out. I've got some mental health memoirs on my shelves I've been dying to read. They're my favorite types of non-fiction books. I think I've said it before, but memoirs, especially mental health memoirs, are my favorite types of non-fiction books. But note that there will likely be no self-help books here because I hate that shit. And those are all my bookish goals and resolutions, and how I've been doing with them so far as of the last week of February. I think this goes up in like early March. But yeah, today is the last week of February, and I've been doing pretty good. It's still the beginning of the year though, so we don't know if I can follow through because I am very notorious for failing literally everything. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it's a total mess. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!